So congratulations on getting access to this video course where I am going to walk you through on how to build your list virally on autopilot after you have set everything up. All right, so this is video number 1, which is the introduction, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of this video course so you know exactly what to expect, and that way all the missing pieces of the puzzle are able to be placed together once you know exactly what to expect. Now, before I jump right in, I want to talk about mindset, because a lot of times when it comes to building your list, a lot of people think, I want to get the biggest list as I can. Now, I really don't want you to think about the biggest list. I really want you to think about is conversions. And what I mean by that is having a list that actually converts into sales. Now, there are different types of lists, which I'll talk about in video number 1, but really focus on conversions, not how big your list is, if that makes sense. Now let's talk about a quick overview of the video course so that you can kind of get a bird's eye view of what's inside. So obviously this is video number 1, video number 2, we're going to talk about the different types of customer lists. There are actually 2 major types, and I'll talk about that. And we're really going to focus on one particular type. Video number 3, we're going to talk about the highest converting list and how it works. So we're going to basically build upon each other. So make sure that you watch all the videos step by step, videos 1 through 9. And of course, video number 4, we're going to talk about the formula for the high value thank you offers, which fits into the overall formula. And video number 5, we're going to talk about finding vendors to piggyback on. Video number 6, we're going to talk about vendor and buyer analysis. Number 7, we're going to talk about creating quality thank you offers. And of course, video number 8, we're going to talk about building a list. So after everything we've talked about in the previous areas, we're going to talk about actual building the list as far as vendors go. And as you're waiting for vendors to say yes, we will talk about building a list as an affiliate for video number 9. All right, so now that you kind of understand the basics, let's jump right in and talk about the different types of lists. Okay, so welcome back. This is video number 2, and we're going to talk about the 2 different types of customer lists. Now, while we're focusing on just one particular path, I really want to talk about 2 major types of lists, because I really want you to get into that mindset of understanding why there are 2 different lists and why we are really focusing on just one particular one. So the 2 major ones are the free list versus the customer list. So a free list, let me explain the differences. A free list simply means that the people that are subscribed to your list have not purchased a product. So if you kind of imagine if you get onto a landing page or a squeeze page and they're asking for your name and your email and that's it, you're not buying anything. That is basically what a free list is. Now, typically these lists are a little bit harder to convert because people do not know you. They have not really put their trust and faith in you. You know, if somebody subscribes and they've purchased from you before, that would be consistent of more of a customer type subscriber. But we're talking about people that don't know you. They've subscribed, they've gotten something for free, and that's it. So in this case, you kind of have to push quantity of lists. Instead of focusing on quality and conversions, you really have to focus on numbers. So it's a numbers game. So instead of having a list of, let's say, 100 buyers, you have to have a list of 1,000 or a couple thousand. Now, the second type of list is a buyer's list. This means that the subscriber on the list have actually purchased a product. So say, for example, somebody lands on your sales page. You're selling them something like a $7 or $17 item or whatever price point it is. They buy it or add it to your list. So that is basically a buyer's list. Now, these types of lists tend to be very high converting because they have proven that they are serious enough to whip out their wallets or their credit cards and buy a product. So think about it. Which really would you like to have? Would you rather have the free list or would you rather have the customer list? So that really depends on what you're selling, but the majority of times you will want the buyer's list. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on in this particular video course. Now, the question begs, how do you build a viral buyer's list without selling a product? Because selling a product, that takes time. And that's not necessarily getting it to build virally and getting other people to build it for you. Now, that is the secret behind this method, is you get other people to actually build the list for you. Yes, it does take time, and yes, there is some work involved, but this is the closest thing to getting to that. So with that said, let's move on to video number 3. Okay, so welcome back. This is video number 3, and we're going to talk about the highest converting list and how it works. So we talked about in the previous video that this is the buyer's list. A list of 100 people is worth way more than a list of 2,000 free subscribers. So think about it, because these are people who actually know you. They have purchased a product, somebody else's product, but they still know you and they have seen you on the thank you page. Now, I'm going to talk more about the formula, how it works and all that in just a minute, so you'll be able to see everything in a bird's eye view. So how do you build a list without selling a product? That doesn't really make sense, does it? But after I show you, this will definitely make more sense. So the way you do this is by piggybacking on people with products, so vendors. And here's how this mind map flows. Basically, this is how it works. Basically, somebody purchases a product from a vendor. And I'll give you an example in just a minute. But they purchase that product and it's not you or anything. It's a vendor. And you've worked out a deal with that vendor who is selling something very, very specific. So in other words, if you approach somebody who is selling, let's say, for example, some sort of recipe book, then you might want to sell something related to them, not directly in competition with them, but specifically related so that it actually helps that person. So after you have done this, you basically will have some sort of high value product that you're offering to that vendor's customers. And the vendor has agreed to place your high value product to give it to their customers for free on their thank you page. So think about it. If somebody lands on the vendor's thank you page, they are ready to download the product that they just purchased, right? And they also see your high value product as well. So basically, they are getting the first impression of, after I purchase, I see the vendor's product and I see your high value product. So what does that do? When they're in that buying mode, they see the vendor and they see your name or your brand. So on the vendor's thank you page, basically you deliver your high value product. It's not the same as a lead magnet or anything like that. This is a super high value product that somebody is actually willing to pay for. You're just giving it away for free and they subscribe and you deliver the goods. Now, you don't necessarily get a monetary exchange in this case, but in this case, it's a win-win situation for the vendor and the buyer. Now, the reality is that no vendor out there will be willing to share their list with you. by all means, I will say that up front, no vendor out there is going to share their list with you. So how do you overcome this? How do you go about this? And how do you do this? Well, you must create what we call a high value offer. So in this case, this is this right here. So that's basically how that formula works. Now, I'm going to basically show you more in depth how this works, but all that means is that your focus is really building a very high value offer that the vendor is willing to put on their thank you page. So in other words, in order to get the vendor to say yes, you really have to focus on the formula of building high value thank you offers, which we're going to talk about right now in video number 4. Hello and welcome back to video number 4, and we are going to discuss the formula for developing high value thank you offers, or in other words, high value offers that are being placed on the thank you page. So you now know the general formula of how this works. Basically, we've worked with the vendor has decided to place our high value offer on their thank you page. And basically they're going to place the subscription form or a link that goes to your subscription form, and people fill that out. Now, the reason why this works is because if you build something that is not directly in competition, but is somewhat related to what they are offering, then the customer just bought what they were expecting, but they got something so much greater, which is what you're offering. So obviously in this case, you have to build something very, very tightly focused, not in direct competition, but tightly focused. So in other words, don't approach a vendor who is in direct competition with you or anything like that. Because as a vendor, a lot of times we think, okay, if I'm going to share my list with you, or I'm going to give something to you, then and you're selling the exact same thing as me, then you're just going to steal my list. So you really have to think about how you can offer something of value, but not in direct competition, if that makes sense. So to make this work, you really need to break it into parts. And here's what I mean by that. Now, we need you to understand how to get the vendors to say yes, because many will say no. So I really want you to put yourself aside here, because I'm probably sure that you're super excited about building a list, getting other people to build a list, and it's super easy to forget about the buyer and the vendor. So put yourself aside for just a moment and let's discuss. So I want you to put yourself in your vendor's shoes, because this is actually very crucial. So I want you to imagine just for a second, imagine that there is a vendor who is selling a weight loss book for $17. What if you came along and you created a high value product that was related? So that book talks about weight loss, maybe weight type loss, cardio exercises, and all that. But they talk nothing about food or diet or anything like that. So you come along and you find these vendors that are really focused on this particular aspect, or anything that is not related to food. Obviously, if you approach a vendor who is selling a recipe on weight loss, they're more likely to say, oh no, definitely not. Heck no. You know, they're definitely not going to accept that, because it's just too close to what they're selling. So in this case, perhaps because their book is about weight loss and weight loss training exercises, you can perhaps create a high value product related indirectly that is discussing about food recipes for weight loss. And let's say you do that. And what you end up is you create a book or a video that is worth more than their book. So in this case, you can set the recipe book up for sale on an actual sales page for $27. Somebody is selling a $17 book or something lower. Basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that your high value product is either double or a little bit more money than what they are selling. And the reason being is because it's going to get the vendor to more likely say yes. Now, it's got to be realistic. If you're offering something of low value and just bumping up the price, that's not going to work anyways. So yes, as you can see, it does take a little bit more time to actually go through this process, but it's going to be well worth it in the end. Because if you can find, let's say, for example, 10 different vendors who are selling a weight loss book, but they have nothing related to food, then you can approach those 10 or 20 or 30 or so forth. Really focus on a few right now and just get them to say yes, and then approach other people and say, hey, this person said yes, so forth, and blah, blah, blah. So that's what you want to do. And now I really want you to think about the vendor. So let's say, for example, if you offered your product up for free to their buyers, wouldn't their buyers love them for just getting you to work out a deal? Yes, that's going to be a win-win situation for them and for you. Now, that is only if the book you're providing is of high value. If it's low value and you have low quality, you're just going to get a bunch of no's. In fact, I've seen, many people approach us, for example, and they want to offer something and it is super low value with a bumped up price. So you want to make sure that you have high value, a high value sales page, and a thank you page. If you're not able to create one yourself, then get a professional to do it for you. Because you want to make sure that everything looks super professional, everything is high value, because as a vendor, we all think the same, and what we think is, I want to provide the best to my list. If anything is, not really good, I'm going to say no. So that's what you really have to think about a vendor, and just think about yourself as a vendor as well. Put yourself in their shoes. Now, obviously different niches are different. So you have to think about that particular niche. You have to kind of analyze the vendor and the buyer, which we'll talk about later. Now, what you want to do is offer their buyers your paid book, your paid video course, your paid product or service for free in exchange for them adding this offer to their thank you page. And we discussed why. And that was why? Because the vendor is sending the buyers to that page to get the download information. So think about it really carefully. If they purchased a product that is related to weight loss and they see a recipe book that is directly related, they are more likely to say yes. Thank you, vendor, whoever you are, and thank you. Now, this is why it works, because people land on the thank you page, they remember the vendor, they remember you. So the point of contact has already been created. Even though they haven't purchased from you directly, they have created this connection with you, which is stronger than somebody just subscribing and getting a free book. All right, so does that make sense? Basically, they are a proven buyer and they're going to remember you as well. So this becomes what we call a warm buyers list. Cold list means that they don't know you at all. They don't know who you are. They just subscribe to your list. They don't know what you can offer to them. So they have that connection. They know you, basically. That's what that means. So as long as you build that relationship up and you constantly give them high value materials related to weight loss, they'll buy from you. And this is how the formula works. And it's very simple, as you can see. So really what it comes down to is most of your time will be focused on analyzing the vendor and buyer, and then creating a high value product that they are already buying out on the internet, but you just produce something of more high value. So you see how you are leveraging other vendors. If you can get one vendor to put this on their thank you page, and even if you're getting, a few subscribers a day, those are actually building your customer base list. So imagine getting 10. If you're getting 3 or 5, subscribes from each vendor, you could have anywhere from 10 or 50 different people coming to your list every single day. And these are people that are customers. So soon you will have a list of 100 people, and these 100 people will convert at a higher rate as long as you provide them with high value. So this is basically how this works, and the formula is pretty simple. So as a recap, this is what it looks like. You create a high value offer, you get the buyers to sign up on your subscription form to get them to the thank you page, and that's it. They will thank you, they will thank the vendor, and that's it. So with that said, let's move on and let's find some vendors to piggyback on. All right, so welcome back. This is video number 5. We're going to talk about finding vendors to piggyback on. Now, you want to ensure that your list is high quality too. And what I mean by that is you don't want to approach every single vendor out there, because some vendors are actually selling very low quality products. And guess what? You're just going to get low quality subscribers. And that doesn't always mean the case, but that typically, if you look at certain vendors, you'll notice that they attract a certain type of person. So you want to make sure that you attract the customer that can resonate with them, but also resonate with you. If they're the type of person that are looking for high quality material and they're willing to pay for high quality material, that's the type of person that you want on your list. But if they're building a subscriber list or customer list filled with people who are demanding, they want to pay less, but they demand more, then you're going to end up building a list of people like that. So a lot of times we don't think about that psychology behind building a list. It's just about building a massive list. All right. So you want to make sure not only that, but that the vendor is actually getting sales. And you want to look at some analysis and do your due diligence beforehand. And you might even want to approach them, say, hey, I'm working on a product right now and was wondering if you're interested. So you can also gain interest from that and just build a relationship from that vendor. Another good way of doing it is buying the vendor's product, buying their product and then saying, hey, I noticed that this product is all about this. I'm actually working on a product right now that is not direct competition with you, but it's something that I feel would actually help your list. So I will say not all vendors will say yes on the spot, but if you have a relationship with them and it's not this, you're begging them or anything like that, but a genuine relationship with them, they're more likely to say yes, because there is somewhat of a relationship building involved. So you want to make sure that the vendors are getting sales and high quality. And there are several sites that you can use to find these vendors. So keeping that in mind, you want to look specifically at sites that sell goods, specifically digital goods. If you are selling a digital book, a digital video course, or something digital or intangible. You could technically look at sites like Amazon.com, but most of those are selling through Amazon and are physical goods. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't maybe even convert your product into some sort of physical good. You could approach it that way as well. But you could use Amazon.com digital like Kindle. And if you do enough research, you typically can find the author of the book or the product and do a little research on the internet to find them on the internet. And if they're building a list or selling something on the internet, that is a good indication as well. So you can technically use Amazon.com indirectly to find people. You can use sites like clickbank.com to find vendors. And this is a great site to go to because clickbank.com will actually show you stats of how well the vendor's product is selling. And the great thing about this is it really encompasses many different niches, everything from wealth to religion to different types of broad spectrums of niches. and all that. Now, there is another site called jvzoo.com, but keep in mind jvzoo.com specifically targets primarily businesses, marketers, so business to business type lists. So let's go ahead and take a look at these sites, and that way you can get a better idea of how to find vendors to piggyback on. So the purpose of this exercise is to merely figure out who the vendors are, what they're doing, and kind of get an idea of, are they a good vendor to approach? Now, there is no guarantee whatsoever on whether the vendor will say yes, but I'm showing you as much as possible to do your due diligence and to find one, and then of course create a high value offer that they are going to most likely be very, very interested in. So I would highly recommend the first site being clickbank.com. As you can see here, clickbank.com. And if you go straight away to the affiliate marketplace, we are able to see the actual vendors that are going to be categorized depending on the niche, the sub niche, and all of that. Now, if you want to scroll down and look through here, that's fine. But we recommend that you go straight away to the advanced search or the search bar here. And then of course you type in that particular vendor. So in this case, let's say for example, that we are trying to find vendors that are going to talk about lowering cholesterol. So let's type in cholesterol here. And as we can see, there are 126 products out there, which means there's 126 vendors that are selling a product related to lowering cholesterol. Now, the nice thing about ClickBank is it gives you some data about whether the product is selling or not. So remember I said you want to find vendors that are actually selling products that actually are doing well. That doesn't mean that you approach somebody who doesn't have good data. Doesn't necessarily mean they aren't doing well, but you are trying to do enough due diligence so that you pick the right vendor. So as you can see, we see these, and these are related to the keyword that we searched, but ClickBank also allows you to do a search by popularity, average sale, initial sale, and gravity. Now, gravity is a good detection on whether a vendor is doing well or not. It basically tells us that the affiliates that are promoting this vendor's product, they are actually making sales. So if we scroll down here, we can see that this one has 192.31. Of course, it's related to diabetes, so we need to make sure that we are looking at something that is related, but this is a good indication that the product is doing well. And some of these products have recurring, which means that the customer is not just paying a one-time fee, that they are paying it on and on and on a monthly, on a quarterly, depending on what the vendor chooses, on an ongoing basis. And that's typically good because that tells us that their customers are loyal and they're constantly paying. And that could mean that if they get on your list, then you could open up maybe a monthly site. So that's just something to kind of get a better idea if, let's say, for example, your high value offer is an offer to get somebody into a monthly site. So you see what I'm saying here? There are many different variables here, and vendors have many indications that they are good to, build your lists in different respects. So building your lists, getting somebody to your list that's a one-time person or a monthly person. Okay, so scroll down, make sure you find somebody, and let's just say diabetes. And let's just go ahead and click on this person's page so we can kind of get a better idea of what they are all about. So obviously in this case, they're talking about, type 2 diabetes, how to lower your, high blood sugar and all of that. You want to scroll down and you want to watch the video and you want to make sure that it's actually aligned with what you are selling, because you got to remember that they are attracting a certain type of person. So the person watching this video, in this case, I'm hoping that I'm going to buy something that is going to help me with my type 2 diabetes and all of that. So once they land on the thank you page, and if what you are offering, maybe it's a recipe book or something related to lowering blood sugar, then that's going to pique the customer's interest, right? Obviously, no vendor is going to do this, but if they give you something unrelated to diabetes and they land on that, they're not going to be interested in what you're offering. In fact, they're going to look at you and they're going to look at the vendor and question if they're selling something legit. So you have to think about it from that standpoint as well. The vendor, when they look at your high value offer, they're going to think, is this going to help me or is this not going to help me? So you really have to think about it from the vendor's point of view and the buyer's point of view. And we'll talk more about that later on. But for now, this is how you find vendors. Now, we could take it one step further and we could try to see if this person might have a blog or anything else. So let's see, doctor info. So what we could do is we can see that these are the doctors, obviously, that are connected to this, but we could actually Google their names and try to figure out if they have a blog, are they building a list, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not just, do they have a viable product, but are they building a list out in the open that is not included on the sales page? Because if they are, that might be a good sign, because if it converts well on the thank you page, they might be more inclined to actually promote it to their other lists. All right, you see what I'm saying here? So start with clickbank.com. Try to do some research as far as finding vendors this way by looking at gravity, by making sure the product is actually aligned with your product. So that's a good way to come to clickbank.com. Another site, of course, is amazon.com. Now, Amazon mainly sells physical products, but you still can gain a lot of insight from amazon.com. So for example, even though it's from Amazon, some of these authors actually have their own blogs, have their own products out in the open on the internet. So if they're doing well on Amazon, most likely that means they're doing well as well on the internet, in the World Wide Web. So let's say, for example, we'll do something like WordPress, or actually we'll do lose weight. And let's just do some research on this. So we're looking for Kindle books. I wouldn't really look specifically for physical products, so I would look under Kindle. So let's add Kindle, or you can go to the Kindle department, that's fine too. But you go here, we're going to sort by customer reviews. And let me see if I can narrow it down a little bit. So for example, this person right here has about 602. That's a good amount. 541. 167. So what I recommend you do in this case is, okay, they're obviously selling a lot. If they have this many reviews, unless they're fake, and there's a good way to detect that by actually looking at the reviews. But if they have this many reviews, typically 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30, even sometimes 1 out of 100 people will leave reviews. So that means they have a lot of sales. Now, the big question is, do these people actually have maybe a membership site or another site that is located not on Amazon.com? So this lady is named Jenny Allen. So what I like to do is typically look at their author page and see if I can dig up a little bit more information. So this lady's named Jenny Allen. I don't know if she's a celebrity. I don't know if she is an information product creator. I don't know, but we don't know until we actually take a look. So as we can see, she's got blog posts. So let's just see if we can dig a little bit further here. So that's interesting. So you can see she has a site, and let's see this blog. think the question is, are these her blog posts or are these somebody else's blog posts? So they're all coming from a site called Formulated Fitness. And it looks like it's the same guy's name. It's not Jenny Allen, but it is Joseph. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look through and see if they're selling another product. So this could be her business partner in this case. So basically what you're trying to do is follow the breadcrumbs. So in this case, I'll do a little more research on Joseph Solidum and see what we get. Formulated Fitness. So it looks like they own a site called Formulated Fitness, and that's correct. So Formulated Fitness, we can see Jenny Allen is on that picture. They have 18,000 likes. We can go further and see if they're selling products, video courses, or anything, any other products that are not connected to Amazon. So a lot of people don't think about this, that just because somebody's selling on Amazon, typically you cannot, work with a vendor with Amazon, because Amazon's very controlled. But beyond Amazon, if you look beyond that, you can actually see that some people are selling products beyond that. So this is a good way to kind of use Amazon as an indication that somebody actually is converting. And if they're converting, then you can actually go beyond that. Does that make sense? And hopefully that gives you an eye-opening experience into what you could potentially do, because Amazon is so broad that it pretty much fills so many different niches. So obviously the third place that you can find vendors is, of course, a place called jvzoo.com. Now, JVZoo is primarily vendors related to business. So Amazon and ClickBank pretty much fill the non-business related type areas. Now, they do have some business, but JVZoo is just for business. So I want to make that note there. Now, they do have some other products you might find, but for majority, it is mainly for business. Now, you do need an account to do this. So you need to go to jvzoo.com, create an account and as an affiliate. And then if you go to the top and you click on affiliates and click find products, you will be directed to this page where you'll be able to find digital products to promote. Now, obviously in this case, we're looking for vendors, but this gives us some good data to get an idea of what products are being sold, how much the conversion rate, the EPC, in other words, the earnings per click, and the refund rate. So if you got a product that is doing really well, but yet they have like a 10, 25% refund rate or above, then you might want to think carefully, because if you think about it, if they are getting, let's say, a 25 to 30% refund rate, the type of person that lands on their product may be a type of person that refunds all the time. And you don't really want to build a list of people like that, especially if they're going to buy your product, download it, and then refund it. So that's something else. You really got to think about the type of person, which we'll talk more about later. But for now, this is a good place to go. And of course, at the top under keyword, you can do a search for a product. So let's say, for example, that we're looking for a product that's related to WordPress. And you can do a search. You can go through here and look at the products. And if you click on the product itself, it'll give you a better idea of, the vendor and all of that and their history. So it gives you a good idea about that. But like I said, follow the breadcrumbs, just like Amazon. Look at the seller, which is, it says the product name by this name of the product owner. So you can scroll down and you can do some research on these authors, just like I did with Amazon, and look at the product, make sure that this is something that is related to your product, and think about the type of buyer that it would attract and whether it fits your product, whether the buyer would be high quality or not, and just find the vendors that way. All right, so with that said, let's move on to the next video.